So we are here with Ray Luzier of Korn today. We're going to do a couple of questions with him.
We're going to do stick flips. Like
Stick flips, yes.
We're going to do twirls. We're going to point, we're going to pucker. No, don't do that.
Disconnect, selfishness, indulgence, insist on forgiveness.
And it's April in Nashville, so look, that's what, hence the bags under my eyes and a sniffle every 8 words I say.
Yeah, the
Allergies.
Allergies are ridiculous.
So
right now.
bad.
Ridiculous.
Okay, so the lovely virus that hit us all, and you know, what a weird time, right, for everybody. So you wouldn't think that ever take away live music. You wouldn't think that, you know, live sporting events, anything that, you know, puts massive amounts of people in one setting. You know, music is therapy for us all, as everyone knows. The 9-to-5ers out there, anyone going through a rough time, anyone going through any kind of thing in their lives, you know, it's such a release. We all need it. We have to have it. It's food for our soul. We need it as us, you know, musicians in the band. We're fans as well. So when it hit and they took live shows away, we thought, okay, it's going to be a month, maybe 2 months. And then when the 3 or 4 or 5 month period passed, we kept talking to our managers and we're like, what's going on? This is getting old. You know. But as everyone knows, it was a worldwide thing. And so one thing, they can stop us from playing live shows, but you can't stop us from making music and writing new songs and making new records. So when it was time for us to fly, or when we could fly, because Brian Head Welsh and I live in Nashville, Tennessee, and the rest of the guys live in LA, in SoCal. So when it came time to fly, Brian and I got on a plane, and we just started going out to Bakersfield, California, where the Korn headquarters is, and we just casually write as brothers. And if it was a new thing getting together this time, it was more special of an event, because it wasn't like, oh, hurry up, we got a tour, oh, hurry up, we got this, we got that. It was more like, hey, let's make some music, let's write some stuff, and let's come back in a couple weeks and readdress it and see what was good, what was bad. And that's exactly what we did. We just sat around, had a lot of laughs, wrote some riffs, and it would come back in a couple weeks and go, okay, this is great, this isn't so good, let's put this with that. And we just kept doing this process and just had a lot of fun with it, because there was no rushing. And all 5 of us were in the room together, and we must have tracked probably 16, 17 tunes. And then we ended up with 9 on the record. And a lot of people are saying, like, why'd you only end up with 9? Well, we felt at that time it was the best material that we thought, you know, as it flowed throughout the record. You know, there's a couple of tracks on there I was like, how can that not make the record, because it's so good. You know, you kind of given birth to these songs. They're like our babies, you know. And so there was a couple of songs on there I can't believe didn't make it. But when you listen to Requiem as a whole, we felt that was the best, strongest material at the time. And you know, you're always going back and forth with managers and labels and the bandmates, and there's always these different avenues to take. So, but I'm quite proud of the record. Everyone always says it's our best thing yet. But I truly believe there's something special about Requiem, just because of everything that we went through, and it was such a release to have it. And then when, you know, the pandemic somewhat ended, we were allowed to do live shows again. We were like, hey, now let's go play these songs live. And it's so great to play fresh material like that, especially with a band like Korn that's been around pushing 30 years. This is my 15th year with the band. Playing the old classics are great, but man, when you write a song and you go out and play that song in front of a big crowd, there's nothing like it. If I was my drum tech, I would quit. I would not want that gig. No, you know, I look like I have this giant monster of a kit, because I think you know, to go back, I hated racks, I hated cages, I hated all that stuff. Just for myself, not the way they looked for other bands. That's whatever you're into, you're into. Myself, I'm a stand guy. So when I got the Korn gig in 07, my first tour in 08, if you see footage of that on YouTube, there's stands, there's no big fancy rack. So this guy named Nassim Haram, he worked for Korn years ago. He was at our studio in Hollywood, California. And I walked in and this badass looking low rider like rack thing was on Jonathan's kit, because Jonathan Davis is a drummer too. He started playing drums before he sang. And I was like, what is that? He goes, I made that. He goes, let me make you a rack. And I go, I hate racks, I'm good. And then he kept bugging me and kept bugging me. And I says, all right, man, well, I have this center China symbol that I've had since I was probably 12. Kind of my signature thing. We call it the North Star. So no matter what kit, no matter if there's a straight up stand or what's holding it, that thing has to be there. I think there's only a couple bands, like when I filled in for Stone Temple Pilots, I didn't use it. There's a couple of the bands like that I just couldn't have it, but almost it's got to be there, or I'm throwing a stick at the lead singer, because I'll go for it. It's gone, right? So I said, okay, you build me a rack, but I want nothing here in front of me, and I want that North Star really high. And he's like, and because I knew I thought I stumped him with that, and he goes, give me a week, and I'll be damned. He came back with this giant diamond thing, and there's nothing in front, and there's my China, and there's all the symbols. And I was kind of blown away, and I says, all right, now we're on to something, because I wanted uniqueness. I didn't want the typical, like, whatever. And so that's how it all started. And then through the years, Abel Catfish Vallejo was my tech, one of my best buddies. He really did a cool version, many different versions of it throughout the years. I have Gene Provencio with me right now, who's a great tech as well. I worked for Tama Drums forever. So it keeps going through these renditions, you know. We're about to go to Europe, and the European rig, we have a locker in Berlin. It's a totally different mindset of things, but it's very similar, the rack. So to answer the question, going back to like how long does it take to set up, it takes a freaking long time, because if you have to do bar by bar, you know, it's insane. But fortunately, most of the tours we do are big sheds or big arenas, so they're semi trucks. So my kit basically gets cut in half, and you know, some things get assembled, the cymbals get pulled down, but the kit literally gets cut in half and it goes onto the semi and rides pretty much set up, which is a blessing for the drum tech. But there doesn't mean he doesn't have a lot of work, because there's tons of stuff to do every day. Some pipe, something breaks or something, you know. I use DW hardware and racks, of course, in Pearl drums. So. Most reliable piece of gear is someone like me. I don't hit like I don't pamper my drums, as most people know. So you have to have reliable gear when you hit like an idiot like me. So I don't try to kill everything. I just feel the music. Whatever I feel is how I play. You know, if you're in a jazz band, you shouldn't be hammering. You know, or you know, you feel the music you're playing, and was always my belief. You know, I hate when I go to see a super heavy band and the drummer's back there like has that waiting for the bus look on his face. Like, give me a show, like, give me something. I'm here, rock out. You know, so. But my equipment takes quite the abuse. You know, what holds my drums is Berg, like one of the best drum case company in the whole planet. All my drums are protected by Berg, so that's the first and foremost as they travel. But Remo has been my drum head probably since I was, I don't know, 10. You know, I never used another drum head. Nothing against, you know, Aquarian, Tack, Evans, all those drum heads, they might be great. I've just never tried them. I'm so biased to Remo because that's all I've ever used. So I use the Emperor X. I have to use the Emperor X live. That's the only drum, knock on all the wood, that never breaks live. I've only broke one of those in my whole career. I don't know why, but when I use a lighter head like a CS or a straight up Emperor, I do break them. So there's something about the Emperor X that withstands insane amounts of pressure, and I hit rim shots every time too, so I know the rim takes off the head a little bit. But and I use clear amps on my toms and that. But that's probably my most reliable piece of gear is a Remo head. You know, Sabian cymbals are very durable. I used everything from Pisces to Zildjian to Meinl, everything when I was starting. Sabian to me is the most durable. They hold up for me. I don't crack that many cymbals live. It's weird. And if you ever see my live kit, everything's kind of angled outwards because I sit really high and weird. But I don't crack a lot of cymbals. It's really strange. I guess I'm plugging everything now. My signature stick, the Vic Firth Ray Luzier model, again, with the durability, you know, you're holding these objects and hitting things over and over again. It takes, you know, a piece of wood is a piece of wood, but the way you, from the, you know, from the birth of the, you know, the tree to how they cut the wood to how they, you know, manufacture the stick is a big deal too. Letting it soak and letting it do all the proper steps. So that's why this stick to me is the most reliable. I had them do the acorn tip for me, and it's a little bit more meat up top. It's similar to a 5B, but it's a little bit longer, rounded butts, and it's definitely the most durable thing, you know. What else did I miss in my companies? Pearl drums, of course. You know, I've played, my first kit I ever got was an export, and I had a DLX series after that. I've been with many companies from D-Drum to Orange County Drum to, you know, even Ludwig for a minute, and I love Pearl drums. I love the way they sound. They're just, it's a different car. You know, everyone gets in their car and nothing drives, you know, or nothing feels like your own car. You can drive anyone else's, but when you get your own, there's this feeling about it. That's like me with Pearl drums. When I sit on a Pearl kit, I instantly go like, it's a home to me. So what's cool about Requiem, we own, like I said, the Buck Owen studio in Bakersfield, California. It's a very, for those of you who know what Hee Haw was, it's that studio where they made Hee Haw, where the original Merle Haggard, Buck Owens, Roy Rogers, the first Willie Nelson record, Dolly Parton, all those old OG country stars, they made their records there. So we left the original carpet, like this weird, you know, turquoise, green, blue, 1974 carpet, untouched. It's pretty amazing. But the drum room, it's pretty dead. There's not a lot of sound in the drum room. So we've tried everything from putting drums on some slabs of wood to. So Jonathan was walking through the theater. In this giant theater is where all the Korn gear is stored, and from all the different tours and he's walking through there and he's like, "Hey Ray, you should put a snare drum and a kick in here just to see what it would sound like." So we started by putting an amplifier a speaker, in that room and miking the speaker with my kick and snare. And then we just said, screw it, let's put a whole kit out there. So we put the whole drum kit out there in this giant theater, and man, there's zero, you know, fake reverb added. It's all just the room mics on the record, and it's a beautiful thing. So that's why the newer record we're making, I made some of Black Labyrinth, Jonathan Davis's solo record there too, and we love it. To control things, there's these new, it's a fairly new product called Sky Gel Damper Pads. Another one of my endorsements. I have my own signature line out now. It's wine red, of course, because I'm a red wine drinker. They're awesome. They just dampen just enough. You know, there's different sizes, of course. There's even these big guys for the kick drums. I have it on my 18-inch floor tom right now because I was doing a session the other day. I needed a more quiet 18 floor. So, and they stick, they never come off. They're really amazing. I use them live and in the studio. So check those out. But that's as far as tricks go, not a lot of tricks, man. Just like straight up, you know, the way you mic stuff, the way it takes a good engineer. We had Fluff is his name, James Harley. He's an amazing engineer, along with Chris Collier, who produced this Requiem. They're both amazing engineers. They got great ears. They got great miking techniques. It comes down to you know, as a musician, when you're playing your guitar, or you're singing, or you're hitting a drum. You know, it's up to you, especially as drummers. We have to control the volumes on our kits. You know, nothing bums me out more than when I get a record back and the kick drum's like here, and the snare drum's here. And I'm thinking to myself, he didn't play like that. He didn't play his kick drum. Goose. So sometimes the engineer will mix not like we play. So I'm really anal about that in the studio. Like, hey, when I sat at the kit and I played a groove, I wanted that kick and snare to sound just like I played it. You know, I adjusted the volumes to how I think the song should be, or if I want to lay into a crash, or if I want to hit something light, or if I want to, I'm the one controlling the, you know, driving the ship. And a lot of engineers will just go, oh, crank this, or you hear the tom fill and it's like louder than the snare drums. You're like, that guy didn't play like that. So that's always baffled me through the decades. You know, one great thing about Chris Collier and Fluff is they're really good at that. They're musicians themselves, and Chris is one of those freaks that can play anything really great. So he's really good at balancing the kit on the record. We had Rich Cossey Costi mixed the record. And again, like him with fresh ears coming in, hearing all this, it didn't take him much to go, oh, okay, here's the spectrum. Let's just place everything where it needs to go. So the audio, it's literally a picture. I love listening to this record on headphones because you can literally see the spectrum, you know, or at least I can, audibly, you know, in front of you. And that's a pretty cool thing. You know, being in Korn for 15 years now, it's like, you know, I always tell people it's, back in the day I used to be kind of a chameleon, you know, I would play with David Lee Roth and I would play with, you know, Jakey Lee and of course Army of Anyone and all my bands, but I had a lot of original bands, a lot of like things from like disco to metal to funk to you name it. And I would kind of be a chameleon, you know, to kind of, okay, we're playing in this setting, here's this, you know, I was a session guy in LA for a little bit, and you had to like kind of drop yourself into whatever pot that was. Like, okay, it's a pop session, 4 on the floor. Okay, this is a metal session, double bass, you know, you kind of adapt. But when I joined Korn, there's no like, okay, now I'm in Korn, let's just adapt to this. There was none of that. It was a completely different animal. It was like, I was dry heaving the first couple shows because I was just like, no one replaces anyone in Korn. Korn is who they are. They each have their own identities. But after the original guy quit, you know, they had, of course, Terry Bozzio, one of my favorite drummers of all time. Brooks Wackerman is amazing. Mike Borden played with him for a bit. Joey Jordison, of course, from Slipknot. We love you, Joey. You know, they had all these different people filling in. And so I was the next guy. So I was like, okay, I'm just filling in too. These guys are all monster players, but to get inside a Korn song, it's all in motion and feel. It doesn't matter how fast your feet are, how technically great you are, how many, you know, things you have built up in your vocabulary in your head, drumming wise. You have to get inside the music of Korn. There's no like, so it took me quite a few years. You know, I remember like I got the gig in 07, and then in 09, I remember Fieldy coming up to me going, okay, man, let's you know, you're gonna start going to the meet and greets and start signing things. And I'm like, why? He goes, well, where are you going? Are you in this band or not? I'm like, I would love to be, but I thought I was just a fill-in guy. And I was okay with that at first. But I also bonded with him in a really strong way, musically, emotionally, everything, brotherhood. And I was like, well, if I'm in this band, what's that mean? And then we figured out, you know, everything we needed to do. And then it became like, okay, where's my spot in this band? You know, one thing Jonathan told me is just feel it, man. Like, be you. You know, we hired you for you. Be, you know, because a lot of times, like with David Lee Roth, I was playing Alex Van Halen's drum parts a lot. And they would, you know, stick to the record as much as you can do your own thing. But with Korn, you know, they said, like, you could pay homage to what, you know, our original guy did, but we want you. We want you in the band. So it was really cool to have that floodgate open to feel the older material the way I might have perceived it, and then obviously to write and perform and record new stuff was just a whole nother level. So it's a really cool feeling to have, and then, you know, to see what we've done in 15 years since I've been in is a really, really cool thing. So I went in a completely different circle on that question, but getting back to the live, what I like to play live, some of the classics, I mean, there's Here to Stay is one of the heaviest riffs ever written, and it's such a straight ahead groove, but it's so heavy and it's so powerful. When you play that in front of 40,000 people and you hear it, you know, through the PA and you watch their expressions, it's so heavy and it's awesome. Of course, Blind is one of the biggest classics to this day. It's a great song. I love some of the OG stuff like Good Gods and Divines and all those kind. But we did a 30th or 20th anniversary of Follow the Leader. And it was awesome to play those songs too, you know, but of course, I'm biased at my own songs. Excuse me. I love playing stuff off of Requiem. We opened this set on our last tour with Forgotten. It was just so cool to watch the curtain drop and have a brand new song blasting everyone's face. That was a pretty great moment. I love Start the Healing. Our new single, Worst Is On Its Way, is one of my favorites. It's just such a heavy groove, and John does his scat in it. It's just there's classic Korn in there with modern. It's really fun. But yeah, I love them all. Off the last album, I love playing Cold. That was one of my favorites. Off the Paradigm Shift, I used to love to play Love and Meth and Pray For Me. Serenity of Suffering, Riding in Vain was good. Black as a Soul was such a heavy riff as well. I just love it all. I really try to get inside the music and embrace. And, you know, I always ask myself, like live, like I'm behind the kit. So if I was in the crowd, what would I want to see up on stage? You know, I always picture that because I'm a fan. So what would I want to see if I was out there? Like, would I want to see a drummer waiting for the bus, look on his face, or would I want to see a drummer giving it to me, kicking my ass? So that's, everyone's always like, you look like you're annihilating everything. I'm just feeling the music. I'm not really doing, I'm not trying to, there's no acting going on. It's 100% me, you know. Some of the stick flipping, whatever, that's old marching corps stuff, and that was David Lee Roth's fault, because he's like, bring some of that flip stuff you do in the show. People make, he goes, Luzier, people pay money to see you too, not just the singer, so.
Yeah.
So as people know, we try to be really creative and clever with our videos. We try not to get too basic with everything. You know, Worst is on His Way is one of my favorite videos we've ever done. This director was there and he was saying, okay, we're gonna do, Ray, I need a complete white kit and I need a complete black kit. And okay, well, that's unique, I've never had to do that before. Called my tech and had him sort that out. And we didn't bring the big rack, I kind of wanted to go lower key on this one. I'm getting all kinds of direct messages like, where's your monster kit? And sometimes I like to play straight up, you know, just, so anyway, we started with that, and then he goes, the wardrobe came in, and like, there was a giant wardrobe case of all this stuff, and I saw all white and I saw all black, and I'm thinking, this is okay. And then we saw the video treatment, and he said he was gonna do this ricochet thing where you're going from black to white really quick. And I remember when we set up the white kit, the black kit had to be in the exact same spot. And I'm like, why is he so, he was like, it's an inch over. And I'm like, well, who cares? Like, where the kids at? Now I know why. When you watch The Worst on Its Way, when we start going off in the middle when John does the scat, you'll start seeing the images flick back and forth between white and black. That's why, because it had to be directly on the spot. So there was no real rhyme or reason why we dressed in white. The whole Backstreet Boys thing was kind of just a funny spoof on you know, right at the end, Jonathan's girlfriend said, why don't you guys just do the pose that Backstreet did? And we're like, we looked down and we're like, oh, that's too good. Yeah, let's do that. So it says, Ray, you get your hands like this, and Jonathan, the next thing you know, it literally happened within 2 minutes. We took the shot, and that improvised thing you see online, it's obviously it's improvised, or we'd have probably sang it way better. But we just started singing Tell Me Why, and the video started rolling, and then next thing you know, Backstreet Boys reposted it, and they're talking about like they want to maybe, you know, I don't know, that'd be really funny, because we've done a lot of collabs throughout the years, but that'd be really funny to do something with a pop band like that, because we respect them so much. But funny.
It was funny. It was definitely, it made my day when I saw it, for sure.
Something you'd never, in left field, you would never expect.
Right. Anything else to wrap up, or anything else you want to share with us?
Yeah, you know, thanks to everyone that's been supporting me through the years. We have a lot of cool stuff coming out, and I do want to plug, because I'm so proud of it, we have Korn coffee now, and you can get it on kornwebstore.com right now, but eventually it's going to be in stores to buy. We have a dark roast out that I love, and we have a Wired blend based off the Nothing album cover of the Wired guy. And that'll get you going. You coffee lovers out there, if you're dragging in the morning, drink some Wired blend, you're going to be doing spins. So check that out. A lot of exciting stuff coming up. We have a lot of cool tours coming up. We're going to Europe, do a lot of the festivals. We haven't been to Europe in a few years now. We usually go once or twice a year. So we can't wait to play for all the people over there that we haven't seen for a while. And we have an Evanescence tour this summer. Hope everyone comes out and checks it out. Thanks for all the support.
All right. Thank you, Ray.
Yeah.